everyone, welcome back. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make my Abigail really simple folio. So it's called the Abigail one because Abigail was the name of the kit I used from Nitwits collection, the DigiKit. So I printed it off and used the papers and embellishments I wanted. And it's really simple because there aren't any pages. It was all just built on the cover, yet we've still got enough room for our 6x4 photos and some 4x4s, lots of 6x4, a pouch for your 6x4s, and a waterfall, and a bit, well, this is just an extra embellishment I put on just to tag some things, and another pouch in the centre. So I did say when I walked through this that originally the idea was to use some 12x12 papers, and that I sized it to maximise the use of a 12x12. So that's what I'm going to do this time, using Vagabond by Stamperia, which I got from intocraft.com. Now I'll link Nitwits and Intocraft in the description below, so if you want to get some of the papers I've used, you could find them quite easily. So these are the papers. As I said, we're going to make that simple folio. So I'm going to put this away and grab my chipboard ready to make the cover. So here are the cover pieces. So I've used 1.5mm chipboard for this. You could use 2mm chipboard, but the only thing is it's harder to cut. So that's why I go for the 1.5. 1mm is a bit too thin for the cover. So I find 1.5 is strong enough, but also easy enough to cut as well using my guillotine. So I've cut two pieces at 8 9/16 by 9 5/16 inches. So that is just a fraction over 8.5 by 6 1/4, which is far easier to work out. So just go to 8.5 and just move it a tiny bit more. Now my favourite way to construct is using construction tape, which is a tape sold by My Creative Spirit, specifically for album covers and building boxes. But obviously you could cover it in the traditional method as well, using your cardstock. I do like this, so I'll show you how quick it is. Now I do have other tutorials where I go through this nice and slowly, but I wanted to show you the advantages of this tape is definitely speed. So all I'm doing is covering 3 sides of my front cover by placing it roughly down the middle of the tape. So I've got half on each side. Then I'm just going to pinch the corners, and I trim towards the corner and get rid of that. On all 4 corners, so I say 4 corners is 2 on one side, 2 on the other, not the 4 corners of the chipboard. And one more, here we are. And then I just hold it upright, make sure the tape is adhered, and then I just sort of slowly pinch it around the corner. So the end is still loose with me. I'm just getting a nice finish on the edge. And then once I'm happy, from the center out, from the center out. So again, adhere, pinch it onto the edge, and then flattening out. If you do get creases, don't panic. It's very forgiving. I'll show you what to do then. Yeah, so it's come out with just my finger, but what you can do then is just take your bone folder and flatten the whole thing down. So I've covered one side. I'm just going to do exactly the same on my other one. So take a nice long strip. Let's move this one out of the way. So I'm placing it down the center, down the long end, And trimming. Trim 4 corners. And exactly the same, just adhere, pinch, adhere, pinch it over the top, and smoothen it out. And smooth it all down. So the advantages for me for using the tape is you don't get that cracking in between the spines that you get sometimes when you're doing the paper method, because the tape is far more forgiving and flexible. So all I'm doing now is just covering the top and bottom of my spine. Now my spine is so thin this time I probably don't really need to be doing this, but I'll show you the whole thing. And as I said, I'm doing this pretty quick today to show you how quick you can actually make your cover, because it is, well, it was, when I was doing paper methods, my least favourite part of the whole process. But the tape method is so quick and easy. It does take some practice, but once you've got it, you're fine. So what I did was I cut a piece just a bit longer each side of my cover. Now I'm just placing my spine and aligning the corners. I'm lifting it up. I'm placing it onto my tape, getting some connection without moving it, placing it down. So when I open it up, what I've got is that double thickness of my chipboard. So I don't need to measure or anything like that. And then I just pull the tape over, turn it around and pull it over. And I'm just going to repeat that process again with my second one. So a nice long bit. So I keep my fingers on it, bring my cover to it, place it down, so just less than halfway through. Now the second one's easier because we've got a lot more to line up. So I'm lining up the corners, but I'm also lining up the two sides. That way I've got a nice even cover. So I'm holding it all together, still keeping it lined up, and flicking it over. Again, when I open it up, I've got that, oh, it's a bit off for me, but don't panic, you do get a second chance with this tape. Let's get it back on. That's hopefully a bit better, much better lined up. And just pull it over. And then just to finish it off, I'm just measuring that space between the tape. We're just going to cover it up. Take my bone folder to smooth down. Just don't push it in between there, you will tear it. And the final bit. Press it all down and then just fold it. So you can see we've got a nice, neat spine. The cover will all be covered and the tape acts as our hinge. So that is why I like the construction tape method. I mean, we're 8 minutes in and that was with me talking, or this part of the video. is 8 minutes long and we've already got our cover made. So now let's put that aside and let's grab our trimmer and our cardstock. So I've got my black 220 GSM cardstock ready to go. I've got my trimmer and I've got a pencil to mark my pages. So if you haven't seen me before, what I like to do is keep my cardstock on the right, my trim in the middle, and then I'll put my completed pieces on the left. And that way I keep an idea of the order I'm going in. So we're going to start by making that little flip book up in the left hand corner. So I'm going to take a piece, I'm going to cut it at 4 1/4 by 6 3/4. And normally I would say page 2, pocket 5 or flap 1. But because we haven't got any pages, I'm just going to go through the alphabet today. So I'm going to call this piece A. And then what I do, I flip it over and place it here. So by flipping it over, I'll keep the order the same. So when I come to do my scoring, they'll all be ready to go. Now what I did in my other flip books, if you've seen them before, just those little mini ones, I took the page out with the next piece. But later on, I'm going to need some large waterfall pieces for here. Now I can only get one of them out of a page. So rather than use 5 pages, I have lots of leftover. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take the waterfall piece from here now. So it's 6 1/4 by 6 3/4. And that is going to be F. So I don't want to put it in my pile yet because the order will be incorrect, so I'm going to put it off to the side. So this just maximizes your A4 paper. So again, I need 5 of these, of each of them. So I'm just going to try and race through 4 1/4 by 6 3/4. So that's A. And then from the other piece, we're going to do it 6 1/4 by 6 3/4. And that was F. It wasn't F for waterfall, just happened to be. So we're going to go to the third one. So A. Did I flip them over there? 6 1/4 by 6 3/4. So this was F. So we've done 3, 2 more to go. A. Just by 6 1/4. F. And yep, one more. A and F. Yeah, so we got A's done. So going on to B now. So B is the top, the bottom of our flip book. So this is the measurement I try to work everything around, which gives me room for photos, which is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. So 1/4 of an inch bigger than your 6x4 photos. So this now is B. Flip it upside down. So C, I'm going to give you 2 options. You can either put a pocket on it, so the pocket would be 3.5 inches by 5.25. So this is what I did in my original version. Just made a pocket here on my cover. But what I also like is in my flip books was having a flap here with a ribbon tie or string tie. So I'll show you if you want to do that version with which closes. I'll show you what to do there as well. So this is C if you're doing a pocket. So I'm just calling that C pocket. And if you're doing a flap, you want to cut it at 4.25. By 2.25. So this would be your C if you're doing the flip version. So the pocket gives you that weight to hold it shut, and the flap would give you an actual tie to keep it shut. So whichever you prefer. So that's C. We're now moving on to D, which is this pouch down here with the lid flap. So for that, we're going to make a 3.5 inch piece by 6.25. So this is D. Then E is the pouch itself, and the pouch itself is 3.75 by 7.75. And this then is marked E. F is our waterfall pieces, which we've already cut with our A's. So let's put them there. So then we've only got G left. So this is actually the last piece of the A4, so we've got hardly any waste at all. This is 3 inches by 7.25. And this is the last one, G. So that's them cut. And now we're going to pull out our scoreboard. So as I said, I put them all upside down. So when I flip them over now, the A's are on top, G's on the bottom. So everything is in order again for me to carry on. So same process now. They're on my right hand side, to my scoreboard, to my left. So just pull over. Long side of it A along the top, score it half. Again, flip it upside down, put it to the side. So if I bring my scoreboard to here, maybe you'll see my process a bit better. So A is just a 1/2 inch with a long side on the top. Flip it, flip, flip, and the 5th one there. So that's my A's. B then has no scoring at all, no tape or anything. So I'm just going to flip that on. I still keep it in my pile just to keep the order there. C then is a pocket. So I'm going to score 1/2 inch on the short sides and 1 of the long sides. So that's C, 3 sides. If you're going to do the flap though, you're going to score at 1/2 and 3/4 and turn it over. D, this is our pouch flap, so we're going to put the short edge on the top. We're going to score at 1/2 and 3/4. and flip it over. E is our pouch, and it's quite a deep pouch, so I'm going to do a half for gluing and then 3/4 to give that depth to the pouch. And I'm going to do that on both short and the long side. So half and 3/4. So there's our pouch there with our score lines on 3 sides. F, now be careful with F because it looks quite square, but we want it with a 6 3/4 on the top. I'm going to score just a 1/2 inch on our waterfall pieces. So 6 3/4 along the top, down at 1/2 inch. And our last piece, G, is a flat pocket. So we're just going to do both shorts and 1 long. And that's our scoring done. Flip them over again. And we have them back in order, ready for tape. And I've got my Teflon tool, which I got from the cool Katz. This is brilliant because it's Teflon, it doesn't mark on the black. That's really nice and strong as well. So I do like that. So we're going to do our tape and burnishing and scoring. So not scoring, the folding. So on A, we've just got these 1/2 inch score lines, and I'm just putting my 3/8 inch score tape between the score line and the edge. So you still get a little bit of leeway each side. If you're using 1/2 inch, you've got to be really careful. So the 3/8 is really good because you can just put it down so quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Flip them upside down. B, we're going to do nothing too. C is now our pocket, and you've got 3 score lines on it. So what I'm going to do is place my tape between the edge and the first score line. I don't bother with that square because we're going to cut it off, so you don't want to waste your tape. Like that. And with this one, we are going to be cutting off the corners. C is a flap, so I'm just going to put the tape on it. But if you want, you can round the corners. D is a flap. Oh, turn upside down. And again, I use my We Are Memory Keepers. I got all 3 sizes on the same one, so it's good space saving one. So I use my larger corner rounder on my page, and then my medium one up there on my papers. So you get a nice layer. Okay, so E is probably the trickiest one, but it's not tricky at all. Now with E, we've got the 2 score lines. So again, we still want to put our tape between the edge and the first score line, not over that score line there. So just in that space there. Any further is just going to be cut off anyway. Again, down this way, and again in that corner. F is just our waterfalls, so we're not going to do anything other than put our tape on. And the last one. and then G is a flat pocket, so we're going to do all three just like we did with C. And there we have all our tape done. So let's just flip them over again. So A doesn't need anything doing to them. That's all we need to do is fold. So we need a nice crisp fold on A because it's like a waterfall type. Okay, so we want them to lie flat. And by doing it this way, we're actually pressing down that score tape, we're burnishing it on at the same time. It's a nice solid burnish here. And the last one. If you remember, B, nothing. C is a pocket, so we're going to have to cut the corners here. So let me come closer to the screen. What we're going to do is we're going to cut a diagonal line towards where the two score lines cross. And rather than going straight, what I'm going to do is just angle my scissors a little bit more. And what that'll do, when we come to fold this one and this one, by angling it, these two won't meet, so they won't overlap, so you get a nice flat finish. Whereas if I went straight, there's a chance we might have a bit of overlap. So just go to it, nothing major, just angle it a little bit more. And we can also taper the edges as well. Just take off a little triangle towards the score line. So just mitering a little bit there. And again, fold and burnish well because we want it to lie flat. So as I said, C has two options. So the other option is the flap, which is just a light burnish because we're not looking for these to lie flat. These have got a 90-degree angle rather than 180 because we want them to be like that. So you don't need to burnish as much because it's not going to lie flat. So that's the other option for C. D is a flap. So I'm going to miter my corners just to the first score line. Flip it over to the first score line. And we're just going to, again, just a light score this time on both of them. And this is still just enough just to burnish that tape as well and try and get it to a nice 90-degree angles there. Now then, E is our deep pocket. So there's a little bit more work to this. So this time I'm going to, again, cut diagonally to that first line. And this time I'm going to cut towards the square as well. So I've got two cuts towards that complete square in the center. And that complete square, I'm just going to turn into a little tab. So let's cut it off there. I think I've got some glue on my scissors so everything's sticking to it. So with the square, I'm just coming in a little bit from the score line and cutting a little miter out of it. So within that square, I've cut a little flap. That's just going to tidy up my corners for later on. So again, over this side, towards, then cut down that one and then angle it. Cut within that score line and angle it just a little bit, just so we've kept a little tab within the square. Okay, it doesn't need to be too overly neat or tidy. It's just to hide any gap. And again, light burnishing because we're just doing a 90-degree rather than 180. And with my longer bit as well. So see then, when we come to put it together, as we bring these, still attached, let me just get rid of that triangle. That little tab we just tuck inside and just neatens up that corner. If you want to cut it off, just cut it off. It's not essential. So that's our deep pocket. Then we've got our waterfall pieces, nice large waterfalls. We'll be burnishing these a lot more later on as well when we put it together. Just get them nice and flat for now. And then G is a flat pocket, so it's just that to the corner, angle, to the cross, angle it out, and then mite to the edges. And fold and burnish well. And there we go. That's all the prep work done. And again, we're going to turn them over. And because we've labelled them and kept flipping, when we come to put it into the album, everything will be in order, ready for us. So I'm just going to grab my cover and we start assembling. So here we are. My chipboard cover has been made. All my pieces are ready to go. So let's start assembling. So I'm going to grab all my A's and my B. I'm going to put my cover to the side for now. And I'm going to place my B down onto my table. And I'm going to take my first A. And what I'm going to do is take some of the tape and fold it up away from my page. That's going to help me then just align everything, because what I'm going to do, I find it easier when I turn it around, is line up these two corners with with the B. Make sure you start off nice and accurate, because if this one's off, every page will be off. So this now is where my adhesive is showing. This bit I can still move around for now. Once I'm happy, press down on the adhesive, keep everything in place, and then I just pull out my tape and burnish it down. So I repeat that then. So I pull out my tape and just fold it at a 45-degree angle like that. And that just means everything here is non-sticky, so I can move it around and then I can just start from there. So I'm going to line it all up again. Line up this bottom right where the adhesive isn't showing. Fold it down. Happy with that, pull it out and adhere it down. That's 2 done. 3 to go. Just lining up all 3. Take out my adhesive. That's it, and 1 more to go. And that's your flip book, which is going to go up on the top here. So I said now, our C, we had 2 options. So you need to think which one you're going to do before gluing it down. So in my original one, I took a pocket, so the opening is on this side, on the left-hand side, and we're going to glue it on like that. And I'm going to do the same this time. But the other option is, like my original flip book, is to have this flap, and what you can do then or the glue was on the wrong side. Let me flip it around, because you want the tape on the inside now. And what you would do is the back of your book, you would just butt it up there, and you would have that just like the other flip book, and then you would add your string closure or your magnets there, so then it's actually held shut. With this, the pocket, the weight of the pocket and whatever's going in is holding it down, so it depends whichever one you want. So for now, I'm going to go with the pocket one. So I find it easier to open my book. So I got my A pointing up. Again, take my tape at a 45-degree angle, line it up, press it down and pull it out. Take off the other two and hold down the middle so it keeps it nice and flat, and press it all down. Now in my flip book tutorial originally, what I did was, if you've got black cardstock and you've got the black construction tape, an optional extra you can do is, you can take your tape just half on, half off here, and just cut it to size. And what we'll do is just work our way around, and it just neatens off the edge. As I said, optional extra, doesn't have to be done. If you haven't got the tape, don't panic. So we're going to put this into our book. But before I do that, I'm going to place it there. I can take my pencil and draw a line. Now, when we bring our flap to here, if we've got a little slight gap, you're going to see that chipboard. So either take some black pen, an alcohol marker, or just take your black tape if you've got it, and that's just going to hide any gap we may end up with there. So just grab my tape onto the back of my album, my flip book. So I'm going to look for luck in the middle. Now, because I don't want this book coming out at all, what I'm going to do is take my acrylic glue, just add some get a bit more out. There we are. And I'm going to do it so that my pages open out to my left. Exactly, it was just going to give me a bit of wiggle room as well. So if you remember, your chipboard was slightly bigger than the pages inside. So you do have a little edge if you want there, just to make it easier. Then we're going to take the flap off D. I'm going to line that up centrally there and press it down. So what you want to make sure here is that you're not catching with your flip book. Okay, so that's why we have that little gap there, and we hid it with our tape or pen. So that's our D. E then, we're going to do the 45-degree trick. Make sure those tabs are inside. And I'm going to start off by lining it up. Just fold that back. There we are. So I'm going to try and make that a nice corner. Let me turn it round. It might be easier for me to see in. I'm just going to line it up in that bottom corner. Didn't press down on the glue. Let me get my phone folder in. I think I need to expose more. There we are. And burnish it on. So now let's take off the sides. Fold those tabs in. And just line them on. Get your bone folder in. Just make sure you're not coming over into that channel there. You have got a little bit of leeway, so you want a little gap between your pouch and that gusset in there. Otherwise it's not going to fold because it'll be catching there. So that's the left hand side done. So let's move over to our waterfalls. Again, 45-degree angle up, and this time we're lining up down the center, and I'm using this right hand edge. I do have a little tiny hair's breadth wiggle room. Make sure you line this first one up nicely because all the others are going to follow suit. So I'm going to get it nicely pressed down. So the next one now, it's a bit tricky to get in shot. Again, 45-degree angle. I'm going to line it up so the fold meets that one because I don't want any grey board showing. Make sure it's lined up. Press it down and open it out. So I'm going to say, yep, it's nicely lined up. So number 3. So I'm more concerned with making sure it's straight down this right hand edge than anything else. Let's have a look. Yep, that's nice. And now expose the tape. So it's lining up nicely so far. 45-degree angle again. And our final one. And we have our waterfall nicely lined down either side. And then open it up. The final piece is this G, which is a pocket. 45-degree angle out again. Just allowing that little hair breadth around the edge. Holding it nice and flat. And taking off the 2 sides. And that's the central pocket. And that is the whole album put together. So all you've got to do now is decorate it. So I'm going to grab my papers and we'll give it a go. So we're now ready to decorate. So I've got my Vagabond papers, which I bought from Intercraft. And I've got my completed album ready. So let's start with the cover. So I said this album utilizes 12 by 12 really well, but you will need one entire sheet for your cover. So I haven't thought it through yet. So I'm just going to look through, and I think there's one with a smaller version of Vagabond. Here it is. So I'm going to use this one for my cover. So if I open up my cover, you'll notice that the one sheet won't cover it all. So what I'm going to do is grab a piece of my black cardstock. So if you remember, your album was just a fraction over 8.5 by 6 1/4. So what I'm going to do is cut a piece 8.5 by 6.25. So I've got my trimmer. So 8.5 by 6.25. So what this will do will utilise my papers for the back cover. So I know it's upside down because I did put it on. But it doesn't matter because I will be covering it in a second. So I'm making sure I'm getting my corners glued, because you don't want your back cover lifting off. Let's get a bit closer to the edge there. And cover the back. My glue was running quite well today, so let's just clear it up. It will dry clear. Okay, so there's the back now. So when I wrap it around, I'll just be covering a little bit there. So for the cover, I want to keep Sir Vagabond. So let's have a look at how far down he'd come. Do I want to trim off the top and have more of him? I think I will. So what I'm going to do, let's have a look at how much I can take off. I can take off 3/4 of an inch. That's a nice size for something else as well then. So for my cover, I'm just come down a little bit. So I'm going to come to 1, 2, let's have a look, 8.25. So let's turn him around. So I've got my Sir Vagabond in the bit I'm cutting off. So he's 8.25 tall. So let's see how, there should be, I imagine 6 if I've gone down to 8.25. Let's have a look. 6, I may just have a little bit more than 6, maybe a 6 1/8. This all depends on how much of a black border you want. So I'm not going to change the orientation for the next bit because I want the pattern to continue. So the next bit is my spine. So I'm going to make him 1/2 inch. I'm going to turn around actually here at 1/2 inch. So make sure you're cutting it from the correct side so you've got your pattern continuing around your cover. As so. So as usual, I'm going to bring in my distress ink. Let's load up my sponge. I'm just going to take away that white core, and that'll also hide if you've got any feathering in your papers. So that'll be my front cover. This will go down my spine. And with this bit, the third bit, it's going to go on the back. Now you can see I'm usually going to be using quite a bit of it here, but you could just cut a little bit if you wanted to save even more paper. But I quite like it as it is, so I'm going to use it all this time. So my piece is cut. Well, whilst I'm here, let's just stick on the back then. So here I'm just doing the basic cover. You know, obviously you can decorate it whichever way you want. You can use your chipboard pieces. There's a load of ephemera pieces which you can cut out as well in the pack, which I'll show you in a second. Let me open it up, just so I can make sure I've got my pattern continuing. Yep, that's correct. Just grab my Teflon tool and then the cover. Straighten it up, there we are. So that is just the basic covering for the outside. But as I said, what you could do is in the kit, on the inside covers, you've got all these extra tags and things. You can go on, embellish it, use your chipboard pieces, whatever you want. But I just want to show you the basic covering. So let's go inside now, and we'll start up with the left-hand side. Now, the only thing I had decided upon is there was a lovely image here, "The world is ours to explore," and I really wanted to use that. So I've cut that out ready because I had figured out that it would fit there. So I like that as an image there. So I've fussy cut that out. And we're now going to choose some papers to go across here. So I'm looking through my pad for two papers which are going to work nicely together. I like this one. I had spotted that one, and it's got a sort of similar one on the back as well with a bit of blue in it. So I'm definitely going to use that newspaper one. Yeah, I like the blues in here. So let's have these compasses. So let's just take two for now and see how far we can get. But you can see there's loads of images you can fussy cut in this kit. So at the end, I may just leave you and come back and add some extra bits. Okay. So remember, this bit here is for 6x4 photos. So we're going to actually cut it at 6 inches across. So let's have a look. So it's 4¼ inches. So yeah, so I'm going to cut it at 4 inches tall. So which one am I going to go for? Let's go for the newspaper. Let's just move my album out the way for a second. So let's cut it at 4 inches. And I think I'm going to go for some pattern repeat here. So maybe we could go here. So let's have a look. So yeah, 6 inches will be correct. So let's go for 6. So our pocket was 3 inches. So let's just go back 1/4, so 2 3/4. Make sure I'm cutting the correct side. Bringing back my distress ink just to get rid of and white edge. Okay, so which way was it? That way, yep. That's going to look quite nice there as well. Let's just bring back our album and put that 2 3/4 inch one down first. So what we'll get then, my Teflon tool to rub it down. This bit will tuck a little bit under, so you will have that black line because of the pocket. But that just finishes off nicely then as well. So there we see, you can see the newspaper carries all the way across. Let's just get my tool down. And that fussy cut embellishment. Oh, I want to get some really dark black into the edge here. I'd already done the distressing, but I wanted it really black just so that it shows up there. Okay. So it's just adding a little pop of colour there. And then the flip part, you could just leave as it is, and it's perfect then for your 6x4 photos. But in the original one, in the Abigail one, what I did do was every now and again, I popped on a 2-inch wide one, and that just gave me a 4x4 photo space. So if you wanted to do some of them, you can do. And because this piece was already cut to the correct height, that's all you're going to do is cut 2-inch wide pieces. Oh, look at that, so Vagabond. It's a perfect fit there. So 2, 2 and 2. So you've got 3 pieces there. Just out of the leftover bit. I told you I was going to maximise the paper. Now usually you've probably seen when I do these albums and I make them fit our regular photos, I have a white photo mat and some doodling. And I was thinking, well, why I haven't this time? Well, the reason would be is that photo mat then would be 6 1/4. And so then my paper would have to be a little bit bigger again, so I wouldn't get as much out of my 12x12 because I wouldn't be able to cut it in 6-inch rectangles. So this time we've gone a little bit smaller, so there's no photo mat, but anyway you see big black spaces, that would be where you'd put your photo. So I'm going to put it this side just to make it a little bit different from my other one. And I've got Sir Vagabond here. Could have 2 then of my 6x4s, and then I'm going to put it in the middle just to hide. I think what I did in the other one was put one, missed one, put one, missed one, but what I can do is at the end I may just come back and add a couple more from my scraps just to my 1, 2 more bits there. So what I could have done was put one there and just have every other. Hindsight. So that's your flip book done. So let's do our pocket now. So remember, we've got these nice rounded corners here. So I'm going to bring in my corner punch. So mine's got all 3 sizes, large, medium and small. So I've cut my black piece with the large, so my mats now will be with the medium. So are we going to carry on with our newspaper? Or are we going to change and have some compasses? I think I'm going to carry on with the newspaper, just for this left-hand side. And I'll use the compasses maybe on the inside. Let's have a look what's on the... So again, we're going to cut it at 6 inches. So you can see why I said this was economical, because what we've got here can be used on this side. Whereas if I'd gone a little bit bigger, I would have had to cut it a bit more than 6 and I wouldn't have had as much paper being used up. So let's have a look. How big did we make our flap? So we made it 2 3/4. So we're going to cut it now at 2 1/2. So here's my 2 1/2 inch. Just use my medium corner punch to give me that nice mat and layer. Now before you do stick this one down, have a think what your closure is going to be for your deep pocket, because if you're going to do a magnet one, you may need to glue things down first, but I'm going to do my trusted Tide method, which is the brilliant one. If you forget to put a closure, you can do it afterwards. So let's add that there. And we've still got all this bit here, so we can actually cover this as well. So it was 3 inches. So let's come down to 2 3/4. So whatever I'm measuring, I'm just making it 1/4 inch less. Again, glue it on. Maybe I could have used the back and brought in a bit of extra colour. I'm still quite happy with what I've got. There we go. And I've still got this bit. Will it fit? Yes, it will. Or I could have used it there. If it didn't fit, I would have just used it as my liner. So let's have a look. What did we say this was again? I think it was 2 3/4, was it? Nope, 2 1/2. Lucky I checked. Let's have this side this time then. So 2 1/2. So look at the waste we've got. Hardly any. So let's bring some of the blue in on the inside, is it? Oh, I haven't. So it's going to curl up that way. So I can trim off the top this time. And then this liner bit doesn't need to be a certain length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and fill that then with one of my leftover pieces from later. So let's have a look at this one. So we've got our waterfalls now, which are 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. So I'm going to cut a 6 by 6 piece here. So here we are. I think we've got a piece we can use as our liner. Let's get some more ink. So you see I didn't glue the, ink the bottom piece because it's going to be tucked in underneath. And let me just get my Teflon tool so I can get in there. Careful it's not moving. So that worked out really nicely. So this one, I think I'm going to use some of the cutouts then to decorate later on. So this is just a plain background for now. Let's put that back on. And let's just centralize that one. So there we have the first piece done for there. And now we're going to move on to some compasses. Now, do I want to use this blue now I'm thinking about it? Or shall I keep the colour scheme more of this neutral? I think, yeah, I quite like this bringing in the compass and the map. So let's bring this one in instead. I think it'll just tone things down a little bit. Yeah. So, and that means I still got that compass ones for later. So this time I'm going to cut it into 6-inch strips vertically like that. And this one I'm going to cut in half again. So what I've got is 6-inch squares. Actually, I'm going to keep that one as it is because that's going to be my my horizontal strips. So let's bring back the Abigail again. So you can see on this one, I had some nice images, 3D, but I'm going to do something different this time. So again, I said I didn't use my photo mats just to maximize my 12x12 papers. So all these black spaces are where our 6x4s fit. And this strip is 2 inches. And we're going to need 1 vertical, 1 horizontal. So 1, 2 of each, 3, 4. So we need 4 of each of them. So this is my horizontals. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Also a nice piece left over as well there. And then these were my vertical ones, so I'm going to cut them this way. 2, 4, a 3, and it's hard to tell which way up it was. I think it's that way now. That way. And 4 of them. So it's going to take me a little bit of time just to ink. So hopefully you can really see how I'm making the most out of my papers, especially with the Stamperia papers, because you don't get that many in a pack. And I'm not a big fan of those projects where I've used 16 12x12 papers, and I've used 2 packs of the 8x8, and it gets really expensive. So I said I designed this one to make the most out of a 12x12 pad. So if you're using your graphic 45, for instance, and you've got
you've done a project and you've got a couple of papers left over, you could use them. Or if you've got a kit which hasn't got many papers in it, such as the Stamperia and the Ciaobellas, you'd probably be able to get 2 easily from those packs, and you'd still have some papers left over, maybe to make some cards or something. Or if you're really clever and you're using some matching cardstock, you could probably even get 3 of these albums out of the one pad. So there you go. Now I know I've changed the orientation of these quite a bit, so let's see the wording. It wouldn't be the first time I've put it in with the wording different. There we go. And these are my horizontals. So it's that way, that way, that way, and that way. Okay. Was that how they went? Not that it matters. It doesn't need to be in any particular order. I think that was just some OCD coming out there. So I'm going to use this one on the bottom just to finish off my waterfall. So all I'm going to do is have a bit of a black border on my waterfall, just evenly sticking it down there. Let's bring down the next one. And the third one. So I've stuck them all on the bottom there. Now with my horizontal ones, I'm going to do them a little bit different. So I'm going to stick this one on the left hand side. Then I'm going to open it up, and the next one's going to be on the right hand side. So when you're flipping through, your photos will go left, right as well. Just add a bit of difference and a bit of interest. I was just looking at where the pattern was, if there was a clue to which way up. That is the right way up. And then the last one, yep, it's this way up as well. And the last one. So that's all your waterfall pages done. We just need a 5th one. Oh, I forgot about that one. So let's go back to the paper, and again a 2-inch one. Just keep that pattern going. So I'll put it on the left hand side. And then it's just a case of decorating our pocket. Now I think, if we're lucky, it's that way around. This final piece here will fit there. That's brilliant. So I don't need to ink the bottom because it's going to be hidden underneath my pocket. Of course, if you want it even more, you could just cut another piece of paper, but I am trying to maximise as much as I can here. So let's get this stuck underneath. And with this, if you remember, this was from that first piece of paper. This is actually the back. So let's use this piece and let's cut it at 6. And of course the pocket depth was up to you. So if you wanted to make a deeper pocket, you could have when you were building your album. But the one I did was 2.5. So let's cut this at 2 1/4. So how many views? Was it 3 sheets? It's not bad going at all. I like that one. So 3 sheets. Ah, was that from the cover? I think that was from the cover piece, wasn't it? So 3 sheets, and that's what we have left over. Pretty good going, I think. And plenty of room for our 6x4s in there, 6x4s in there, some 4x4s if you want, and 6x4s there, and a pocket for even more. So what I can do is, I've still got these 2 bits. I can go back and do those 2 pages I've got left here. So there's one there and one there. But before we do that, actually I'm going to do it because I want to know how much scrap I've got. Because I have got my Cool Katz dies ready to go. So here's one. And 2. So I now know which bits I've got. Just really are using everything up. Drop my glue. So let's put this one in. And the next one. So now it looks even better. That's our waist. So let's do some ties for here. So what I've got is a scrap of my black, and I've got my Cool Katz dies here. Now these dies are the ones I'm using, the ones with the circle and the holes. Now these aren't available separately yet, but hopefully in the future, if Maggie and Kay are really nice, I have asked them, can they bring these out as a set, because these come with the envelope dies. So what I've got are the 2 bits which cut the circle with a hole in the middle, and then 2 to mat and layer. And the way I do it, let's just grab. So this is just the black card left from my cover. So So for each of my closures, I'm going to cut 3 of the larger ones. Oh, it's already fallen out there. Brilliant. So it's brilliant that you get 2 of these dies in the kit. So it does halve your cutting time. 2. Oh, that one moved. I'll have to recut that one. Usually I would have taped them down, but I'm trying to be speedy and it's actually worked against me now. So there's the next 2. And let's just cut a couple more. Okay, so those now are our circles, so I don't want that one. I do want this one. There we are, 2, 4, 6 of the large, and now 2 of my small, which I'm going to use these scrap bits. So let's have a look what we can do. Let's get some colour in, is it? Perfect size. Let's just bring in the machine again. And we need 2 of these. Okay. So as I said, these dies came from the Cool Katz envelope die kit. They're policy envelope one. So I could cut some matching envelopes and put it in the pockets. That could look quite nice, especially with the Stamperia, because you could just cut them in one go and you'd have the inside and the outside decorated in one go. Oops, that side. So let me just poke the centers out. And from my black ones. So I've shown you how to make these before, but I really wanted to show you from start to finish, just to show you how quick you can get these done. There we go. Just move our bits out of the way. Let's just clear all the scrap bits. Okay, so to make it, I'm going to take one of the black circles. I'm just going to add some glue to the back. I'm just going to smudge it so I get glue right to the edge. And I'm going to place it exactly onto the other one. So I've still got that hole in the center. So that's double backed. And because I'm making 2 of them, I'll need another one. So I'm taking the glue right to the edge. I'm going to glue it onto the other one. So that's just giving me some strength. And these 2 now are singles. I'm going to glue my patterned paper ones onto the double backed. Lift it up. So that center hole really helps you line it up. So let's get this one. There we go. So now let's just grab some tiny brads. So I've gone for some brass ones this time. I've never used these ones before. So I'm just going to flatten them down, because if you have a look at them, we do have sort of that curve, but I like them to lie nice and flat. So I'll just get my nails in there and flatten them out. That's just personal and then just through the double. There we are. So now I'm going to put my single one on top and just open it. Now, not too tight, because we do want that single one, if I can get in between, to be a little bit proud from the other two, just like that, because that is where our cord will go. So when you're putting it on, don't squeeze it too tight. You do want a little bit of space. Okay, let's get some double-sided tape onto the back. So this will just help keep it in place for now, but I am going to add some glue so that it stays there forever. So you can just eyeball it, or if you've got your ruler, our paper was 6 inches wide, so I'm lining it up with the paper rather than the black. My 3 is there, so I'm just going to, I think it's a bit high, line the bottom of the circle with that 3-inch mark. Take my bone folder and squeeze it down. So I'm in between that double one with the decorative paper and that single one underneath, and then another one here. Of course, you could always just make one of these and just use plain circle punches there and just glue your thread underneath, and then just make this on the bottom. But I like it all matching, so that's why I make 2. So this then is just some 1mm waxed cord, and I'm taking it between that 2. Now normally I would leave this dry a little bit, especially with that glue, and get it in between the black single on the bottom and that double, and get some snippy scissors and get in there to cut off the excess. And then this bit now just depends on you, how many times you want to go around, what orientation. That is plenty for me. Cut off the end. And what I would then do is use some of the plain circle dies, and I would just cut some black pieces and sandwich them just like we did here with the decorative paper on each side, just to tie off the end. But I think you can work out how to do that quite easily. So we're just going to decorate this bit. So for that, I thought we've got these postcard type images. So let's grab this sheet. And of course, I'm not going to use every one. So if I was going to make a second one of these, I would have plenty of the images left. Nice big scissors. Now we've got this map one here, which will tie in nicely. So we've got the world, and we've got 2 sentiments, so I think I'll go for this one. Let your dreams be your wings. It also ties in the colours more than anything. There we go. Again, bring in my distress ink. So I'm going to give it a nice deep black edge just to make it pop from that similar coloured background. So I'm not being stingy with the ink. I could have used my distress ink marker, which I have got somewhere. That would give me a really dark edge. In fact, I think I've got it. So this is what I was talking about, the distress marker. We've got a brush end, so I can really give it a dark edge. So I've got that blended edge, and now, so you can see how it now stands out against the background. And with the main image. I need to remember when I come to glue this down which way up the map's going, because there is wording on it. Of course, if you'd chosen a really decorative piece there, you could just use the sentiment one. But I just wanted to bring in a little bit more colour. There we go. And I think that just sort of ties in with all the bits coming down as well. So there we have it. That is now our album complete, using 3 of the backing papers, a few of the fussy cut pages, and that is the waste. So when I said at the beginning of the project that it was to maximise your 12 by 12, I think that's our proof there. So I hope you enjoyed, and of course that's not the end of the story. If you don't want, what you can do is go through, add some more fussy cut bits there, maybe onto your wallet, finish off your ends, maybe as well on the decorative pocket on the inside. Something nice would be go there, but obviously totally up to you. So thanks for watching. I'm glad you all came back and sat with me right to the end. If you do have a go, I'd really like to see your versions and how you've made it using different papers, because it really does change the look and feel of the project. So if you do, head over to Facebook and join my group called Paper Crafting with Paul. I really do like seeing you lot making your versions. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.